everybody? How are we doing today? Welcome to Dharma Time, or Dope and Dharma, and more specifically, our Dharma Time segment. I, as always, am the Dharma Guy, and he is, drum roll please, Dope Doctor, otherwise known as
Right.
Dope. What's up, man?
I'm doing good, man.
Are
I'm
you in
out here in Marion
are you in prison at the moment? Because it looks like you got a
County.
prison wall behind you.
It looks like it. It's me and my vatos got in trouble
What are they,
over
man?
the
Yeah.
weekend. That's right. So we're locked up right now, bro.
Wow.
No, no. I'm in Marion County. I'm doing my consulting gig today. It's a long day of meeting with public officials, hospitals, law enforcement, fire. You
Sounds
know,
exciting.
all the movers, shakers of the community.
Nice. Right on. Yeah, that's how
Yep.
we make a difference, right?
That is how we make a difference, man, and it's exciting. Bringing Park Place into Marion County, they're now in charge of the recovery response team line here, which means basically a 24/7 hotline for anybody here in this community that needs help. They
Right on.
help them get their services. Yep.
Well, speaking of hotlines, everybody can obviously reach out to us at 833 Now
Mm-hmm.
Matters. That's 833 Now Matters. And that's if you or
Yep.
somebody you know is looking for some help or some guidance in the drug and alcohol world. If you're dealing with some addiction issues and you need help, reach out to us. Or if you don't want to talk to us on the phone, you can go to nowmattersmore.org. That's nowmattersmore.org, and you can fill out an application there, or you can mash that donate button. That's always nice. Uh,
Mash. The way you
mash
say
it.
that. Mash.
That's right. But anyways, I digress. So today, for those of you who've been paying attention for the last several weeks, we are
Mm.
doing a five-part series, I think, on communication. Um,
Yeah.
and the reason why we decided to do this is because in today's day and age, we have so many tools at our disposal to communicate with people in various different ways and platforms and whatnot. But there still seems to be a lot of let's say misperceptions, I guess, or everybody's got their own perspective on how those things should be utilized and what it means to
Mm.
somebody else. And I think that oftentimes it ends in maybe some hurt feelings or fractured relationships and stuff, mostly due to a misunderstanding on how to use them appropriately or skillfully, right? And
Mm.
I think the reason why we are talking about it on this particular show is because on Dharma Time, once again, we try to approach things from a spiritual perspective.
Right.
And if you are kind of getting your feelings hurt or hurting other people's feelings or kind of just having some overall difficulties in the realm of communication, then I would say that's a really good way to affect your inner peace. And the way to stop that from affecting your inner peace in a negative way, anyways, is to learn how to do it skillfully. Learn how to approach it. Learn how to incorporate it into your life in a skillful way that doesn't result in something that hurts your inner peace. So, in other words, we're not just over here complaining about all the things we don't like about our phones. um, so, speaking of phones, that's what today's is, right? So, the first one was on
Oh
text
yeah.
messaging. The
Yeah, we did
second
that.
second one was on email. That was last week. Both
Yep,
of
did
those you can
that.
find on youtube.com/Dharma Time. If you would like to watch them or if you want to listen to them, you can go to any major podcasting forum, wherever you listen to your podcast at, and type in Dharma Time and you'll find us there. And so today's is going to be on the phone. This is a big one, right? Because your phones, at least in my lifetime, and yours obviously as well, they've changed a lot, haven't they? Like I remember back in the day, like I am old enough to remember rotary phones. And so I remember
Yeah.
being connected to a wall, and you had to, do this little thing, and then it kind of moved into the digital buttons, and then you
Mm.
started not having to be connected to the wall anymore. And then as I remember when mobile phones came out, that big brick, and it slowly progressed. I remember back in the day, if you remember the trend where all the phones, the idea was to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and then now it's reversed. Now they went bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Because they're getting smarter, you can do more. If you would have told me 15 years ago I was gonna be able to watch a movie on my phone while I'm surfing the internet, I would have like, first of all, I would say like, what is all that? Because they didn't have internet back then. But
Right. Right.
uh, but yeah, so that's where we're at. And the thing
Right.
that I've realized though is, as phones have gotten so advanced, a lot of the etiquette expected around it, a lot of it remained the same.
Mhm.
A lot of it's still there. A lot of these old school kind of expectations around phone etiquette remain. There's some new ones, obviously, but a lot of the old ones still sit there. And I think there's a lot of arguments and a lot of hurt feelings and a lot of fights that take place around phone etiquette and phone, just how people interact on phones. I think that creates a lot of disdain for a lot of people.
So you
What do
think
you
there's
think?
some do's and don'ts, do you?
I do think there's some. I think there's some basic do's and don'ts, and then I think that there's some individual do's and don'ts, right? And I think that's what we're talking about
Okay,
today.
right
Um,
on.
so I have a list here as we did for the last few weeks. So let's just jump right into it and start going over them.
Yeah,
And if you're listening to this live and you want to comment, by all means, write in the comments, and we'll address your thoughts on it as well.
yeah.
But in no particular order, yet again, we have a list that him and I brainstormed ahead of the show because that's how we do things. We prepare. Uh, so the first one I got here is time of day, right? Time of
Okay.
day. Now I think this is
I'm a
an
day.
interesting one because time of day. I remember when I was younger, time of day, especially when we didn't have mobile phones and it affected the entire household. Time of day really mattered a lot. Like I remember when I was a kid, you did not call anybody before like 9 a.m. and you did not call past like 9 p.m. Like it was like a hard stop on either one of those. Because if you did,
Yeah.
it's either inappropriate conversation or you're about to get yelled at. Like you just
Oh, the
don't do
parents
it.
get pissed.
Yeah. But it seems like in today's world, it's a little bit different. I think mainly because it's such a personal thing, right? Like before, it was a house phone. So if it rang, it woke up the
Mm-hmm.
whole house or whatever. Whereas now, you can have it on silent, you can have it in your pocket, you get on the phone and it doesn't affect anybody. So I think it's
Right.
become less universal and more individual. Um, which is interesting because in my own home, I try to keep it universal in my own home with my kids. Because my younger ones, they like to call their friends a lot in the morning time. It's weird. You have a PlayStation as I do. You could do on the mic and talk while you're playing. But for some reason, like my son, he likes to call his friends and either FaceTime them or whatever while he's playing. I was like, dude, why don't you just use a party chat? It's weird. Um, but they like to do that, and my son will wake up at like I don't know 7:30 in the morning and be like, oh, it's time to game, and he wants to call his friend. And I'm like, no, buddy, like you don't know if they're awake. Like you're 9, dude. Like chill. First of all, I'm not happy with him even having a phone, but that's a whole other discussion. Regardless, I try to teach them on the weekends. Don't call anybody before 9 and don't call anybody after 9. Like that's the 9 to 9 is my rule. I wish I had some sort of a the only thing I think I base it on is 9 a.m. is typically when business starts. So I think most people are expected to be up and about around 9 a.m. ish. And then 9 p.m., it's borderline. I think like if it's important, 9 p.m. you can still kind of get away with in most households. After
Right.
9, you're starting to like, you know, do you have that status in my life where you can call me after 9 kind of a thing? Um,
I hope I do.
sure, yeah. But not everybody does, right? And that's the thing. And so, for me, I think timing is kind of important, man. What do you think?
When you say it, I would say yes. But then I think back, like you just said, that you taught your son and your daughter that the 9 to 9 thing. I don't think I ever gave my kids any of that education. They must have had to figure it out on their own because I don't think I remember ever teaching them anything about phone etiquette in regards to time. All my stuff was more about don't send blank ever.
Right? Yeah.
you know?
Man.
But as far as like phone call, I don't know, but I think yeah, I think that's a good rule. I struggle with that, Trinity. Like mornings like this morning, right? There was at least 3 to 4 times that I wanted to call you this morning. I got up at 5, like I told you, 5 a.m., and then I got in, the car around what 6:30. I was on the road, um,
Right.
driving here to Ocala, and I had no one to call. I'm used to doing business on the phone when I'm
Right.
driving, but when 6:30 in the morning,
Yeah.
you're limited on who
Yeah.
you
Not a
can
lot of business
call.
happening at 6:30 a.m.
That's right. That's right. So my whole routine of what I normally do while driving was thrown off.
Right.
So I just changed it up,
Sure.
But I found myself wanting to call you and go like, it's kind of early. It's too early.
Yeah.
He's
At six
probably,
thirty, I probably would have been
getting
awake
breakfast
this
with
morning.
the kids. He's doing this with the kids. They're going to school. So I stopped myself, and so is that what you're talking about? Just be
I think
mindful of
so.
the other
Yeah.
person.
Yeah. I think that's part of it, right? And I
Yeah.
think you just nailed it right on the head. Is being mindful. That's part of the etiquette that's involved. It's not like
Right.
necessarily a hard, fast rule, right? Like
Right.
the Earth
Right.
is not going to stop spinning if
Right.
like my son decides to call his little friend at like 7:30 in the morning. But
Hmm.
it's about being respectful of the person on the receiving end of that. And that is, I
Right.
don't know what you're doing. If it's early in the morning, maybe you're sleeping, maybe you're busy doing something else, maybe you're with the kids,
Right.
whatever it may be. Or if it's in the evening time, like I know for me, I have a lot of people that will message me wanting to like talk about something or get on the FaceTime or whatever, and it'll be at nighttime. And my rule with them is always like, I would, bro, but this is my family time. Like at nighttime is typically the time that I have to spend with my wife or my kids or whomever. We'll sit around, we'll watch TV. We're not doing anything like top secret, but it's our time. Even if we're just sitting here watching the TV together, it doesn't matter. That's our time, and we all deserve that time together. So if it's not of utmost importance, or if it's not going to be a quick call, or you know what I mean, if it's somebody else that's trying to do business, I typically, no, I'm good. I'll hit you up tomorrow, or whatever. Now there's a list, right? There's a small list of people that doesn't impact, and I think
Right.
most people know if you're on that list for that person or not, right? Like I think you kind of know. Um,
Right.
well, you should know, anyways. But yeah, I think that's what it's about. It's really just about being mindful of the person who's receiving and being respectful of their time. Um, in today's day and age, I think that there's an expectation that everybody's at your beck and call. I think there's an
Right.
unwritten expectation that when I need you, you're going to be available, and my world is the one that matters. And I
Right.
think that causes a lot of problems because we got to remember that there's other perspectives, right? They have their own world in which you're not in. And so just because you're in a moment where you need something or you're wanting to ask a question, their world doesn't necessarily revolve around you. They're doing something else, and I think that causes a lot of problems in people. That is I do think that overall concept causes issues, and one of the symptoms of that, or one of the ways it shows itself, is the time of day. Because we have a whole list, obviously, but I do
I
think time
use
of
it
day
to my
matters.
advantage. Yeah, I use it to my advantage, Trinity, to be honest with you, because,
Right,
I don't think people know that I'm a morning person, that I'm a real early person.
right,
But I am. And so there are people that are on that list that know I'm a morning person, like the Jack
sure,
Levine of the world. Jack knows I get up early, so like he knows that if he calls me later on in the day, it's going to be real hard to get me
yeah,
to do whatever we're trying to do, right, for the foundation. But if he calls me like at 8 a.m. or texts me around 8 a.m. or earlier, he could say, "Hey, before you get things going, hit me up." He knows
sure,
that can do that. So, but I use it to my, and when I say I use it to my advantage, I think some of you may do it too. So if it's either early or late, then you have an excuse. You have a ready excuse. So if
yeah,
you call me at 8 or 9 a.m. and I really don't feel like talking yet, or I'm doing something else, I can use the time as an advantage and
sure,
just like, I'm not going to deal with it right now. Thinking, well, then you might think, oh, damn it, did I call too early? Did I call him too early?
right,
And let you just deal with that feeling. And then there's people that that were waiting, because it's amazing how often my phone rings at exactly 9 a.m. on the dot. So
right,
apparently, your 9 to 9 rule is everywhere, because I can't even tell you how many mornings my phone rings at exactly 9 a.m. Meaning they were sitting
right,
there waiting.
right.
Beep. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think 9 a.m. is just because that's typically when businesses open. So 9 a.m. is
Yeah.
usually like, all right, it's expected. Like if there's yeah, if there's like not necessarily a business, but like a professional that I need to get a hold of, it is not like an office building where I'm calling like a main line. If it's like a mobile number or something, yeah, I'll wait till 9. I won't call before 9 because I don't know. But at 9, I kind of expect you. If you're running business, I kind of expect you to be available at 9 a.m. It's a
Right.
reasonable expectation, I feel.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I do think time of day really matters. I think time of day says a lot about what your expectations and kind of where you feel you rank and things and how much you do or don't respect the other person's time. Now, and that's the thing is if you're one of those individuals who doesn't connect those dots, that's okay. You don't have to, but you have to understand the person that you're calling might connect those dots.
Right. Right. Right.
And I
A
think
person
that's what
that
we're getting at.
a person that's not mindful to the time on a phone is the same person that, if you're staying in the same place, the same house, and they get up earlier than you, they talk loud talk as if nobody's sleeping,
Yeah,
or at night when everybody's asleep, they loud talk as if nobody's
yeah.
trying to go to sleep.
Banging things
Um,
around, shutting
yeah, yeah,
doors
yeah. I'm
hard.
not
It's
that
like, dude,
person. So in the morning, I'm like quiet as a mouse,
yeah,
and at
same
night,
here.
quiet. It's just one of those things that, again, the mindful word keeps coming up,
Yeah,
and it's just being respectful and mindful to someone else. And hey, whatever I have to say or whatever we have to do can wait. Now, if it can't wait, that's
yeah.
different. But that's not going to be the norm. That's going to be the exception to the rule.
Well, it's interesting. You should bring up waiting. So let's bring up the next one I have on the list, right?
Okay.
So the next
Okay.
one I have on the list here, and it kind of coincides with the whole mindfulness, and that is
Okay.
blowing somebody up.
Oh,
You know, when you call and then they don't answer and you call them again, or if you call them 5, 10 times out the day, or those types of things. We all have our different versions or ideas of what blowing up means. For the
right.
purposes of this discussion, that's how I'm going to define it: is calling
Okay.
multiple times within a short period of time with no response. That to me is
Right.
blowing up. Um,
Yeah.
in today's day and age, especially, we have things like caller ID, we have voicemail. If you call somebody, they pretty much always get a notification that you tried to contact them. And
Right.
so if they haven't contacted you back yet, then it means a couple things. Either A, they're busy; B,
Right.
they're purposely not wanting to call you back at the moment; or C, they
Right.
didn't get it at all. Right? And I think that the fact that they didn't get it at all is a very rare occasion. Something happened like a missed call or something like that. It's very rare. I think more times than not, they're either busy or they're not interested in calling you back at the moment. And I think that
Well,
it's hard for us to accept that on the receiving end of
oh,
that.
very, 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 very. We all get in our feels.
Yeah, we,
Uh,
we like,
so
how dare you not answer my call, or how dare you be busy? It's like, well, I am.
yeah, many times that happens with me is because I'm around people that I really can't get in the call that I need to with
Yeah,
you around these people, and it's rude to the people that I'm around at the moment. I want to give them the attention that they
yeah,
deserve. They're here in front of me, and I don't want to do that. And I'm not really good with, hey, can I call you back real quick, and then hang up. I'm not really good at that. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So on that, Trinity, uh, if you blow up my phone and I don't want to talk to you, blowing up my phone is not going to work.
No,
As a matter of fact, it's going to make me want to talk to you a lot less.
I'd agree with that.
I really don't want to talk to you.
Yeah,
However, if you're calling me for help, if you're calling me for help with drug and alcohol problems, okay, in my expertise area, or it's a business thing, trust me, blowing up my phone works, and that's why I will tell you personally. If I've ever looked at you and said, listen, if you want my attention, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, blow up my phone. I'm giving you permission to blow up my phone. That's a whole different animal.
sure.
Blowing up my phone because you need help, I'm cool with. Blowing up my phone because what you think is important is not, to me, very important, then now you just got on my I don't give a damn when I get back to you list.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Like I've had to teach that to my kids, man. Especially my 16-year-old. We had to have a couple conversations because she would blow my phone up one time. Like she called and I was in the middle of doing something, so I sent her a voicemail. So I figured, I'll get back to her in a minute. And
Mm-hmm.
then it called again, and I was like, okay, that's weird. So I sent the voicemail again, trying to finish something I was doing. The third time, I'm like, okay, whoa. So I answered. I was like, what's going on? And it was a stupid, stupid question, like, hey, I don't know, can I eat this last something in the house? And it's like, dude, are you serious? Like, you blew me up for that? Like, you called me 3 times back to back to back for that. Like,
You could
because
text that.
you could text that, yeah. So then things like that are frustrating, right? And so that's what I like. That is what we got to be mindful of. Is, as you pointed out, just because it's an emergency on your end, you got to really truly ask yourself: is this worthy of
Yeah.
creating an intense situation on the other end of this? Because
Right.
that's what it's going to
Right.
be. It's going to be a certain level of intensity, right? Because you get it one call, you acknowledge it. Okay, I can't do it right now. I'll get back to you. A
Yeah.
second call, the intensity is starting to build because the second call, it's no longer, oh, I wonder what they wanted. Now it's like, uh-oh, like is something wrong? Like now our
Right.
narrative starts to go, and if you don't answer on that second call and you actually get a third call, now you're like in crisis mode, thinking, all right, let me figure out what this is. And if you find out it's nothing, you just amped up this other person. So the response that you're about to get might not be something that
Yeah.
you're interested in having, and
Yeah.
and you kind of, it's kind of on you at that point. And that's what I mean is
Which
we have to be mindful in how we try to utilize these tools of communication. If we use them in a way that is not going to, facilitate peace between us, then you can't be shocked, when the peace is not there afterwards. You got to learn how to do these things, and that's what
yeah.
we're doing these shows for, is to help people understand that concept.
Yeah, I don't respond real well to the skies falling. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't. Here's what I don't respond well to. I don't respond that if you blow up my phone, you don't leave a message and you don't text. It's like, oh, mysteries don't work for me. I'm not a
Yeah.
person that goes, oh my God, now I need to know what he wanted. What did he or she want? Oh my God, I need to know. So I got to call it. No,
Yeah.
that's not the way it works. And
Yeah.
and Maynard, I think Maynard just texted me something. What did he just say?
He said, so that's why you haven't called me back, Louis. LMAO.
What do you mean? Which part do you think I said that he's responding
I
to?
don't.
That's
He
not
said
true.
earlier he sees people on the phone at 6:30 in the morning going to work. He's like, why, things of that nature.
I don't remember not
Um,
responding to Maynard. So that means you just got lost in the
I think
shuffle
he's
if I
just
didn't
I
call
think
you
he's just
back, Maynard.
joking with you, but
Because
but
I
yeah,
would call Maynard back.
yeah. I think the
He's not
blowing
on
up of
that
the
do not answer list.
I think the blowing up the phone is just if it's not a legit emergency, I'm going to go out on a limb
Yeah.
here, and whether you intend for it to be or not, if it's not like a
Uh-huh.
legit emergency, it's kind of disrespectful of the other person. Meaning, I
Right.
don't
Right.
respect your time enough to say, let me go ahead and give you your space. No, no, no. I respect my time more than I respect your time, and you're going to respond to me now. Whether you intend to say that or not, that's kind of what's being translated on the other end. On the other end, it's basically, at first, it's just, uh-oh, crisis mode. But when they find out it's not a legitimate crisis, then that's when the frustration comes into play. It's like, dude, are you, like, stop. And whether you intend to or not, that's what's going to potentially start off a series of events you might not like. Because what you said without saying it is, I don't respect your time.
Oh no! What it tells me is worse than that. It tells me you see your phone, you're lying, you're hiding on purpose. Answer the damn phone, mf'er. I know you could see that I'm calling.
Yeah.
Answer. So to me, it's accusing me of ignoring you, and I'm not trying to do that. So, um, listen, if you
It's
really
both.
need me and you called and I didn't answer, text and say, hey, I need this, or I want this, or hey, please
Yeah.
call me back. But give me some sort of information. If you called and texted, to me, that's an effective way of letting me know that you need me. But blowing up the phone, not leaving a message, not texting me, that doesn't tell me anything.
Yeah. And whether you realize it or not, because I think there are going to be people out there who don't think of this stuff and don't realize how they maybe stepped into a minefield. Well,
Yeah.
what you have to realize is there are people who do think of these things. There are people who are much more cerebral when it comes to the way they communicate. And I think
Yeah.
that's where a lot of the disconnect happens is just because you don't look at it that way does not mean the person on the other end doesn't.
Yeah.
And so if they do look at it that way, you got to appreciate and respect the fact that that's where they're at on their journey and that's how they feel about things. And it's up to you to respect that and adapt to that, not them to adapt to your style. You got to know that. Because I do think that here's like a real example that I had to that I dealt with a long time ago, like in my own house. So
Yeah.
I am a toilet paper over the rule kind of guy, right? I'm over not under. And my wife would always I would come in there and it would be like weird sometimes. It would be over, it'd be
He'd flip it.
under. It was just and I would flip it all the time. And so one time I asked, I was like, dude, are you doing this on purpose? Like I don't understand it. And what I realized is my wife legitimately does not care. Like never even occurs to her, and she just grabs it, whatever it was, she puts it on there. And that was hard for me to understand at first, because I did this. I would start to fill in the narrative, like, is she doing this on purpose? Because I've actually mentioned it to her before. Like, so no, it was a stupid little like, not an argument, but like a debate in our house at one point. So I knew she knew
Yeah.
about it, and so I was under the assumption, like, all right, she's just messing with me, trying to. But no, she legitimately just would randomly grab it. And for me, it never occurred to me that somebody would do that. Like, I always thought you were the either or guy, right? And so I bring that story up to prove my point that you might not think calling at a certain time is a big deal. You might not think calling multiple times is a big deal. It just might never occur to you. But what
Right.
you have to start doing is it might occur to the other person. That other
Yeah.
person might look at that and say, dude, what is this person's problem? They might call it, they might answer with an attitude. They might, tell you off. Who knows? And then you're going to get mad at them for responding in a way you didn't expect. But you got to realize that that's on you. You didn't respect the other person's perspective. You didn't acknowledge that, hey, maybe they think differently. And I think that's where a lot of the trouble comes into play here. Um, Enrique said, this is a whole other issue with communications nowadays. Text and emails intention is lost in translation. Couldn't agree more,
Hmm.
brother. The
Yeah.
next one we have here on the list is when it comes to phone calls. And once again, these are in no particular order, so we might get redundant at some point. But length. I think this is an interesting one. Length of the phone call. Like, I've
Like if
met
someone
people,
answered or the voicemail.
if they answered. I've
Okay.
met people who have no problem staying on the phone for 6, 7, 8 hours. When I was a kid, I used to do it too, right? We have a little like little girlfriend or something like that. You know, you sit on the phone trying to talk because that's all we had when we were younger. Um, but uh, man, I can't do that these days. I need short, sweet. Like I'm trying to do other things. That's why I prefer texting. So if it's a phone
Oh,
call, I need it to be very, very informative kind of a phone call. Like I need like a dissertation type of
yeah.
thing. I can't have a long-winded like so let's listen to each other breathe for a few minutes. No, I'm not at a point in my life where I'm really interested in doing that anymore. Um, and so I think that once again, some people are phone talkers and some people aren't. If you are a phone talker, you've got to realize that maybe the person you're on the phone with isn't. And there's a really interesting cue that is universal, right? It's never taught to anybody. I've never taught it to my kids. I've never heard it being taught, but it's like a universal thing. Everybody knows it when they hear it, and that's
All
the
right, I'm gonna take notes. Go ahead.
we all do it.
Just in
It's
case
the
you do it to me. Well, go ahead.
when you're on the phone and you're ready to be like, yeah, all right, man, okay, like that
Yeah,
little
yeah.
that tone and those words are my cue of saying I'm ready to wrap this conversation up. We've said what we need to say. It's starting to get redundant. There's nothing else
That's
to
right.
go. I got other
I
things
do
I
that
need to
all the
do.
time.
Everybody does. It's never
Yep.
taught, but it's a known thing that every human being that's on the phone, they just kind of know that tone and those words. Like, oh yeah, all right, man. So code for let's get off. And so I think that you got to respect that because I've had people who will say, like, I'll hear them on the other end. Like I'm like if I'm in a room, I've heard you do it. I've heard you say to somebody, all right, man. And for the next 5 minutes, they're still trying to talk, and it's like, dude, you got to read the cue. Like he gave you the I'm ready to get off, and you keep going. And so if we're trying to respect other people's times
Yeah.
and we want them to respect our time, these are the things that we're talking about. Like these little
Yeah.
subtleties that happen every day in our lives that you might not realize the domino effect that it's creating, right? Because the other thing that we have here is everybody in life is going through something. Everybody.
Mm.
We all have our challenges. We all have our things that we're going through every day. And so while it may be something really stupid and insignificant, it might be the thousandth thing that they've had to deal with today. And if that's just the straw that broke the camel's back, you might get unloaded on, or you might sever something that means something to you with your inability to respect that there's other things that are happening around that, right? And we are all guilty of that as well. Every single one of us at one point or another have taken out some other stuff on an undeserving person. And so none of us are immune to that, right? And so what we're trying to do today is help you find these moments of skillfulness to kind of like maybe add to your repertoire and realize where maybe you're creating more of an environment than you're intending on. And I think length of time on the phone is one of them in the sense of if somebody's ready to get off the phone, man, like get off the phone.
Let them go. I
Yeah.
get in trouble on this one, Trinity, and I'll tell you how I get in trouble on this one. And let's see if you can relate. So everything you said it initially sounds great. I'm not a phone person. I don't like talking on the phone that much, which is all true for me. And then my wife points out this one thing. You can talk to Trinity for hours, but when I call you, uh, you want to get off the phone. You have no time to talk to me. And I'm like, how do I respond to that, Trinity? How do
Yeah, I don't.
I respond to
If
the
you got a
fact
response to
that,
that one,
yeah,
let me know because my wife has pointed that out as well.
I can, because there's a difference. When you and I talk, we can actually not even say something for a little bit and then just pick it up. I mean, we can actually do things while we're talking.
Yeah.
Whereas with my wife, I have to be on point
Yeah.
because she may ask me something that might be like, talking about one thing and then all of a sudden go, oh, and I want to buy tires for the car. So is that okay? So I better be on point.
Yeah. Yeah. The
And
consequences are less severe for sure.
right. Plus, I mean, she's going to be there in person. So as a baby, why don't you just tell me? I don't want to
Yeah.
talk on the phone with you. I see you. You're
Yeah.
not a girlfriend. You're a wife. There's a
Yeah.
difference. I come home to you. So you're going to talk in my bed. You're going to talk in my jacuzzi. You're going to talk when we're eating dinner. You're going to talk when and you're always going to be talking. So I'm in
Yeah.
conversation with you.
I would say
So
that
she'll
the
always do that. Every time I'm on the phone with you and I get off, she's Miss Jealous. Miss
if I
Jealous
if
that,
I had to
oh,
add up the
dude.
amount of time that I've spent on the phone with my wife in the last like month, I'd say probably 30 minutes, if that. We text a lot more, or we'll speak in person. I don't typically get on the
Yeah.
phone with her, but I'm actually lucky in the sense that my wife is not a huge phone talker either, though. So it kind of works for me, thankfully.
Neither is mine, but as soon as she leaves the house, or I
Yeah.
leave the house, boom, I get a phone call. I'm like, baby,
Yeah.
you were just here, but she wants to talk all the way to where she's going. I'm like, baby, you just
Yeah.
I'm on the phone. Or if I send her that I'm on the phone, because when I leave the house, I get on the phone immediately. When I leave the house, I
Same
get on the
here.
phone and I start doing things. So she'll call me. I said, baby, I'm already on the phone. I'm
Yeah.
talking to people. One thing we got to add on that list is, do you answer a phone? Do you do the call waiting or not? Is that on your list?
The
Because if
call
it
waiting.
is I already forgot what call waiting used to be. Is that what
Well, that's with
you
the
know how
beep.
like
Yeah, when
yeah, you
it
get
beeps
beeped
in to
in
let you know.
and you answer, right?
Yeah.
I'm not one to want to answer it. I don't like answering it.
It
Even if
depends on
it's
who
my
it is.
wife or kids. If it's my kids, I might. If it's
It
my
depends on
wife,
who. For me, it depends on who it is
not
and
so.
what conversation I'm currently in. Like if I'm in a
I try to predict.
conversation, if I'm in a conversation that's just filler,
Yeah.
there's nothing
Hmm.
major happening or whatever, and then somebody
Yeah.
who's on my list calls, then
Right.
yeah, I'll get off the phone for that person to see what
Right.
they need.
Right. Right. Right.
But if it's a number I don't know, or if it's somebody I know kind of what they're looking for, nah, I won't answer that. I'll hit them back later. It kind of depends on where they're at in the priority list, I guess. Um,
And I'm a predictor of what they're going to say, so I kind of know what
yeah.
my daughter's. My daughter's a big texter. My youngest, she'll text
Well,
and she'll like crisis text, Dad, urgent, 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 and then it's just like, get me Taco Bell.
that's funny.
But my wife, I figured that like she knows I'm on the phone, so just like text me if it's important. And if she would text me, hey, I really need to speak to you. Of course, I'm gonna
Yeah,
hang up
of course.
and talk to you, but you got to realize I'm probably predicting what you want to talk about.
Sure.
So I'm thinking, well, let me finish here, and then I'll call you.
Yeah, unrelated, not necessarily with skillfulness or unskillfulness. Maybe it is, I don't know. But one that's not on the list, but we both kind of mentioned. I think that we're not alone in the sense of I have a very real routine when I'm driving, and I'm on the phone.
Hmm.
Very
Hmm.
rarely do I find myself sitting there like listening to music. I mean, I will obviously, but it's almost like a weird like connection. The second
Yeah.
my truck starts up, I'm either answering a phone call or I'm calling somebody, and I'm just driving and
Yeah.
multitasking when I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And I
An
don't know what
office.
that is. It's such a convenient thing to knock out so many things at once. Because when I'm
And the
at
drive
home,
goes fast.
it does. It goes faster, and when I'm at home, I don't want to be on the phone because when I'm at home, I got things that I can do. But when I'm driving, I don't need to see this Toyota in front of me. Like, I can do other things. But when I'm at
Yes.
home, I typically want to watch something. I want to do something. I want to talk to my kid. I want to do something unrelated to being on the phone. And when you're at home, that's all you can do because you can't have a conversation with those multiple people at once. Um, Maynard just says, I think people get bored, so they call people. Possibly,
Yeah.
possibly.
Yeah.
Um, so the next one I got here is these are all kind of connected here, but we'll start with appropriate.
But just to answer, Maynard, that's fine. But if you're bored, just don't make me the person you call.
Yeah,
I'm not a small talk person. I like to get to it. You know what I
yeah,
mean? The only person I can small talk with you kind of is you because we're also working at the same. So it's really weird.
yeah.
So I'll tell Dana, no, we were working. And she goes, I heard you guys. You weren't just working. You were bullshitting about something. I said, well, that's in between the work.
Yeah.
You gotta read between the lines. We
It's a
get shit
complex
done.
thing, man.
Yeah. Don't try to understand it. It's a man's world, baby. Don't try to get
That's
it. Don't
right.
try to understand
Let
it.
me
No, just kidding.
mansplain this to you.
Let me mansplain it to you now, man. That's horrible, man. You're gonna get me
um,
in trouble. No, you know why you won't
um,
get me in trouble, Trinity? Because she doesn't watch the show.
yeah,
She
mine
doesn't even
doesn't
listen
watch
to
them
it.
either.
I can say
No,
whatever I want.
I would say what is and isn't appropriate, right, when it comes to phone calling, and I think that's we kind of already touched on it. I would say some of the things that to me are red flags as far as what's appropriate, what's not, is time of day. I would also say your relationship with that person, like if you're a friend or a coworker. Like if I will say I'm not a jealous individual, I'm not an insecure person, but if my wife got a phone call at midnight from her girlfriend versus some random dude, I think they feel differently to me. You know,
Mm.
if she gets a phone call from her girlfriend at midnight, it's inconvenient. It's like, why is she calling? But if she got some dude calling her at midnight, like, why does this dude think it's okay to call you at midnight? Like, I don't understand. So yeah, there's definitely a difference of what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. So if there's
Mm-hmm.
somebody that is of the sex that you are attracted to, be it same or opposite, and you're in a committed relationship, then that does play a role, whether you intend for it or not. And just because you're cool with it doesn't mean your significant other is cool with it. Or
Yeah.
if you're cool with it doesn't mean the person you're calling is okay with it. Because I will have those. Like if, yeah, man, like, dude, make no mistake. Every single time I get a phone call or a text message after like probably 9, 10 o'clock at night, my wife will ask, well, who was that? She can sit with me all day long, and my phone can be texting and ringing and going off the hook all day long, and she never even bats an eye, never gives a shit, never even looks over at me, does her thing. After a certain time, and I think that magical time is around 9, 10 o'clock, she'll immediately, who's that? Because it is. So we have to. It's an unwritten rule, but we all do it, and so there's an
Yeah.
expectation of how we interact, right? And so you have to respect that about your partner, and you have to respect that about whomever it is that you're trying to reach out to. There are things that are considered appropriate, and some things that aren't. Obviously, you have the obvious ones, right? Like, don't. We already covered them in a couple weeks ago. Don't text message, certain revealing pictures of yourself, things of that nature. But with a phone and actual calling, it's who you're calling, when you're calling, what your relationship is. Those
Yeah.
all matter when it comes to appropriate or inappropriate.
Yeah. Maynard says something about people using the speaker.
That's
Do you
that's
mind?
coming up on our list. That's actually
Can
next.
we do? All right. Well, let's do it. Let's do it now because my dad talks like that. Look, if you call my father, just so you know, anyone out there ever call my dad? I don't care where my dad is. He could be in a store. My dad could be in church. He's
Yep.
answering and it's on speaker. Just know that everybody can
My
hear
mom
you.
too.
Just just know that. But the other thing is that's one. The other thing is if they're in their car and they're parked somewhere or whatever, just know that everyone can hear you through their car
Yeah.
too.
Even if they're not
So
in the
have you ever
car, even if
walked?
they're sitting next to you, they can hear
Yeah,
you.
have you ever walked like you're walking in the aisle to go to Publix, you get out of your car, you walk, and you hear someone talking to someone on the phone, and they just don't realize that
The
everyone
whole
can
world's
hear
hearing that. Yeah.
half the conversation. Yeah, or if the person has to speak, the just the phone's real loud, and you're in a quiet scenario, people can hear you. So just be
Yeah.
careful when you're talking. Most likely, if you're talking on the phone, someone else can hear you. And if I call you and there's someone in the car and you answered me on speaker,
That's on my list too.
tell me that there's people in the car that they can hear you because I'm gonna use foul language or
Well, those
something
those
like that.
two are actually the next two I had on my list. One is
Oh
speaker, and the other
God.
one is announcing when you're on speaker, right? So
Okay.
yeah, I would say that number one, my mom does that as well. My mom has a hard time hearing, and she doesn't like it's not comfortable for her to put up the ears, so she put on speaker so
Yes.
she can hear you. It's a
My dad
legitimate
will put it
thing.
on speaker and still put it at his ear.
Yeah, my mom does too. So it's a legitimate thing. It is what it is. I mean, that's the joys of aging, man. Like, shit happens, right? You know, yes, it can be considered to be rude to both the people who are in the presence who don't want to hear that conversation or the person on the other end who's having the conversation. I think in those situations, we all kind of have to have just a little bit of coolness, right? We all got to just mellow out just a little bit. If you're hearing the conversation, somebody else, you should have stayed home. Like there's things that are going to happen out in the world that you're not going to like. It sucks. People have different, so in that situation, you kind of have to be aware that you're out in public. And so when you're out in public, you lose the ability to control your surroundings the second you walk out your door. And if you're not cool with that, if you can't cope with that, then maybe you shouldn't walk out your door. I'm not saying it's right, and I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it's a fact that we've all had to deal with.
Yeah.
So if you get easily bothered by that kind of stuff, that's on you. You got to learn how to make your button smaller, right? Don't get so
Hmm.
agitated for things that you can't control in the first place. And then on the same token, though, be mindful that if you're in a quiet place, maybe not have your speaker on. Maybe step outside or something like that. Like, don't be in a
Yeah.
crowded movie theater and pick up and answer your phone speaker and
Or don't
start
answer
talking.
it. Just don't answer
Yeah,
it.
or
Wait.
don't answer. Um, Otherwise, we all can kind of just be a little bit more mindful on how we're treating and respecting those around us, right? The other thing about speakers, so this is something I do a lot. You and I both do actually quite a few times, and we have our own reasons, but it seems to not come off the way we intend for it to come off very often, right? And that is like you say, you'll call me, I'm driving, and I'll answer the phone, and I'll have my wife or my mom or my kids in the car, and I'll say to you, hey, what's up, man? Hey, you're on speaker with everybody. And
Yep.
then my wife, oftentimes, will like, well, why? Like, you think you're going to say something? They immediately take it to like the worst possible scenario. And what they don't realize is what I'm trying to do is be respectful of you to say, hey, I don't, if you didn't want everybody in the car to hear what it is you're getting ready to tell me,
Right.
I'm just
Right.
letting you know that they're here. So let's say
Yeah.
let's say we wanted to talk about a client or something like that, right? I mean, prohibit us from talking about everybody.
Right.
Let's say that there's an intimate, like an intimate situation that happened with clients or with the business or whatever that we kind of just want to keep between us. You can't do that with everybody around. Not that we have too many of those anyways, but you never know.
I don't have any intimate moments with clients, just so
Yeah,
we're straight.
not
That just didn't even
not in a
sound right.
sexual way.
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying we have, especially in the business that we deal in, there's a lot of like things that take place with some of the
Right.
clientele that we work with that I don't necessarily want to talk about in front of my 9-year-old son.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we got to be aware of those things, or if we are friends, right? We're not just business acquaintances; we're friends, and so if we want to vent about something, we might not necessarily want the other person's entire family to hear what I'm venting because you and I have an
Right.
understanding. We might vent, it doesn't matter. We're just blowing it. It literally does not matter. Within 2 minutes, we're gonna go back to doing whatever, and it was all bullshit. But in that
Right.
moment, we just need to get it out. We both respect that and know that about one another.
Yeah.
But our respective families might not have that same appreciation. They might hear something
Yeah.
that's like, what? And they don't realize that it's just talk. Um,
Well,
and
now
yeah,
that you told me that, just so you know, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but next time, well, I guess I do mean to interrupt you, but next time that happens, I'm just gonna, probably say something like, "Hey, did you figure out which hooker gave you the chlamydia or something like that?" I'm
yeah,
gonna just say that
sure.
just to kind of mess with it a little bit.
But yeah, that's the point, though, right? Like the point is we're trying to be respectful of the person on the phone. It doesn't necessarily
Yes.
have anything to do with the person sitting next. Now, that's not to say that everybody has that. I'm sure there's people out there who like are afraid you're going to say something about the person sitting next to them.
Yeah.
We are not that way.
Right.
We do it because I'm being respectful of whoever it is. Because I've
Right.
been in situations where I've been recorded unbeknownst to me, and it's a violation of
Yep.
trust and a violation of privacy. And so the idea of making somebody else go through that without letting them know, it just feels disrespectful to me. Like if you're gonna call, and they do it right now. If you go to a store, it tells you right on the door, you're being recorded, you're being whatever. It's no different. Out of respect, I let them know, hey, make sure
Mm.
you understand that this conversation, because when you call somebody, the implication is that it's a private conversation between the two of you. And so if that implication is not true, then I need to let you know out of respect. That's really all it comes down to.
I like that.
But
What is it saying?
I'm sorry.
What did
Oh,
Enrique say?
Enrique says, well,
Put it up
first,
there. Put it up
Maynard says, let me put on here, it says, I don't hate people, I hate what people do. And then
there.
Enrique says, I also can't deal with that well when someone calls between workout routines for other reasons, breathing hard on the phone.
That is so weird when that happens. When people call you, I always have to say something. Are you all right? You sound out of breath. It's like I just want to make sure that I hear the way you're breathing right now. You know what I mean, or
Right.
whatever is going on, or because you never know where you're calling people. Like
Sure.
we can tell when you're in the bathroom sometimes, right? Like
Sure.
bathrooms sound a certain way.
That's on my
Some
list too.
bathrooms. So in somebody in that bathroom may flush. Like if you're in a public restroom, just don't answer my call. I mean, just call me later because it just sounds awkward. Like people that like when I'm urinating and someone comes next to me and they're talking on the phone, I'm thinking, why are you next to me talking on the phone? You know what I
uh,
mean? That's
yeah.
disturbing my urination.
Well,
You know?
let's go. That's on my list. It was actually the last one,
Oh,
but we'll
is
cover
it?
that. Yeah, we'll cover
I
that
keep
now.
predicting things that are
Um,
on your list. I like it.
Yeah, well, they're so universal. That's the point, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And these are things that people might not think of, right? Because I've had people who I know will get on the phone. Like I got. There's typically two types of people I know, or three types of people. There's
Okay.
the person I'm on the phone with that will tell me, "Hey, I gotta go use the restroom. I'll call you back."
Yeah. Yeah.
There's the person who will go to the restroom and try to hide it, and then
Hmm.
there's the person who just doesn't give a shit and will just knowingly go to the bathroom, and I can hear everything, and they don't
Try to
care.
hide it. Try
Those
to
are the
hide it.
three. Yeah, those are the three types of people. The person who calls me back, cool, I understand. It is what it is. I respect that. The person that tries to hide it, I respect the effort. You know what I mean? Like it is what it is. It's a natural body function. If it's going to take you 30 seconds to go pee. You don't want to get off and call. I get that. No big deal. The person that doesn't give a shit, okay, that's just the weird.
I don't like it. I don't
That is
like
a
it.
weird moment, man. When I'm on the phone with somebody and I hear like, whoosh, it's like,
I don't like.
did you just? Okay. um,
No, no worse than that. We there's a person that you and I know, and I'm not calling them out on now. on this, but I think I even told you about it. And this is a pretty well known person, and I'm talking to him, and all of a sudden I can hear something, right? And he tells me he's hiding from his neighbor. I said, "Why are you hiding from your neighbor?" He goes, "Because I'm pissing outside." I'm like, "Okay, two things are wrong here. One, you're pissing outside. You're at your house, so that's problem number one. Two, you're on the phone with me. I don't want to be talking to you while you're pissing outside." Is number two, right? That just freaked me out. I'll never unsee that. I can see him in the snow hiding behind a tree so his neighbor doesn't see him while he's pissing outside. It's weird. Weird.
Interesting.
So,
Yeah. So
yeah.
when it comes to bathroom, just once again, understand that not everybody might have the same perspective on it you do. I think the safest bet would be just to call it back. The next safest bet would be to try to hide it. The last thing you should do is just knowingly just whatever, this is what I'm doing. Like, okay,
All right.
because you just
Well,
might
you and
not
I
be on
both.
that kind of level with somebody. That's all.
No, no. You and I both have this friend. I even told you that's what he was going to do. I said he's going to send you a picture
Yeah, I know you're
of
talking about.
that. Is
Yeah.
luckily he doesn't send those anymore.
No, he
Oh
doesn't.
my God! But that when you don't send me a picture of your bowel movements.
Yeah.
Time out. I'm not interested. I don't want to see it. The first time that ever happened, I'm like, what the hell did he just send me?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So to me, that's no difference. Just don't. I'm not interested in those pictures.
Um, the next one is once again, these are in no particular order. Simon, we gotta stop. Simon chimed in. He said, "You don't want to mentally picture someone holding their junk while talking with you." No,
No, I
I would
don't.
prefer
I
not to do
don't.
that.
I
That
don't.
goes with in person too, by the way. Just on this timeout here, I'm gonna do my own timeout.
In person.
Yeah, when it's like an unspoken rule amongst gentlemen. If we're
Yeah.
walking into a stall or we're walking into the bathroom, even if we were
Right.
talking prior
Yeah.
to, it is
Yeah.
okay to pause the conversation. Even if we walked in the door talking, it's okay to pause it while you're urinating with your stuff in your hand. I don't like the idea of standing a couple feet away from somebody
Yeah.
who's touching themselves, first of all. Second of all,
Right.
while you're talking to me, and I'm good, man. Like, we can wait for 45 seconds. I'm good. Just, we'll pick it
Yeah.
up when we walk out. So, no, Simon, I do not like to picture somebody doing that while they're on the phone with me. And
Yeah.
yes, I have a very active imagination, so I can't help it. I will picture, like, the situation. Can't help it. It's just part of life.
Right.
Um, anyways, the next one I have on here is this one's actually kind of an important one. This one
Okay.
I think is there's a lot of debate about this one, and that is and this is a multifaceted one, but that is get off the phone. And what I mean by that is because you and I both do this. If I'm in the car and it's not important, like I'll somebody calls me, I say, hey, let me get off here. You're like, I'm in the car with people because I don't like to just be on the phone and make them sit in my car just dead silent while I'm completely ignoring them. Or if I'm in person, I'm going to get off the phone because I'm in person. Like whatever I'm in person takes precedence over the phone. I'm not going to just
Yes.
sit there and completely ignore because I'll sit there and I'll walk into a room sometimes. There's like three or four people
Yeah.
all with each other, but they're all like on their phones or they're all
Yeah. Yeah.
talking.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like respect. I'm old school, I guess, in that sense of I like to respect the people who are in my presence first. Like you take precedence. If you were standing in front of me, you are more important than whatever's on my phone, unless it's a crisis or something. That's.
Yeah.
But to talk about like the score of last night's game or something like that when there's like company right in front of me, it just feels rude and disrespectful to me. But not everybody feels that way. And because
Yeah.
obviously when you look around, you see it all the time.
Right. Right.
Um,
Right. Right.
so what I would encourage people to do is if you are that person who is on the phone constantly or doing something on your phone when you're in the company of people around you, I would just encourage you to just ask. You might be surprised at the answer. Ask that person if you do it
Right.
consistently. Hey, does it bother you when we're together and I'm on the phone like that? You might be surprised, dude. They might be telling you, yeah, I never say anything, but it does kind of bother me because I have a hard time imagining it not bothering somebody. To be
Yeah.
honest with you, they might not say anything, but there's got to be a part of them that's like, why am I here? Like I would rather go do something else.
Right.
Um, so it is a very disrespectful thing, whether it's intended to be or not. I don't think somebody's maliciously doing it. I think they just get caught up in that and they don't respect the person's time that's in front of them. And I think that causes problems and friction. It creates a disconnect. There's a reason why we're so much more connected in today's world, but we're all more depressed and lonely, and suicide rates are going up. We feel less connected than we ever have, but we're more connected than we ever been. And I think it's related. We won't get off of our phones. We won't stop. Like we're here, but we're not present. If that makes sense.
Right, right, right,
You know what I
right.
mean? Just because I'm sitting in front of you doesn't mean I'm present. I can be sitting in front of you, my mind is a million miles away, or I'm searching something or whatever. But when I put everything down, all the distractions, and I'm talking to you, I'm now present, and that creates a more connected, base to work from.
Right. Well, first I'm going to address um, the first part in regards to get off the phone. And I'm thinking about all the businesses that I've ever been to where I took the time out to drive to your place of business, to be at your place of business to see if you have something that I need to purchase. And you get on the phone with someone who's calling you to ask you if you have what they need to purchase. Hold up. I came. Talk to me first, then deal with the phone call. Too
Yeah,
many people put the phone precedent. They answer. I'm already talking to them. They go, oh, give me 1 second. They answer the phone. They start answering. Okay, let me have a look. And then they look at you and they go, give me 1 second. Let me just check on this real quick. I'm thinking,
that's what
you
I'm
were
here
talking
for.
to me first. You got distracted by the phone. Now
Yeah,
you're going to take care of the phone customer first before me. No, it's the opposite. Take
yeah,
care of me first, then the phone person. That bugs the crap out of me, man. That's one of my biggest pet
yeah.
peeves, man.
Well,
If
I
you
agree.
if you run a business and someone took the time to come to your place of business in front of you, take care of them first, not the phone.
Well, and I feel the same way in personal life as well. Like if I
Hmm.
took time out of my day to be in your presence and you be in mine,
Right,
and we've done
right,
that, and put the phone
right,
down. Like
right.
I'm here. We could talk, and you can be on your phone at any time and any day. I'm not always going to be in front of you. I'm not always going to be here. And
Do you have
but
this?
go ahead.
No, no, go ahead. Finish that thought. Finish that thought.
No, I was just saying, and if my presence isn't required, if you're not valuing it, then cool, I'll go elsewhere. like,
Yeah.
but go ahead.
You ever get in conversations with your daughter, or she's on TikTok watching TikTok videos
Yep,
while you thought doing something together? Yeah.
yep. It irritates the hell out of me. I got to tell them all the
Me,
time, put the phone down. I'm
me too.
trying to talk to you
Me
right now.
too. Me
Because they'll
too.
do this, yeah. And it's like, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
Put the phone
Yeah.
down
Yeah.
and let's
Or we'll be
convert.
watching a movie. We're watching a movie, and I see her do TikTok. I'm like, you're watching a movie,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. No, it's and I don't think that it's like once again we're getting so disconnected. Like it's yeah,
Tap that vein.
yep, pretty much.
Yep.
So my advice would be to anybody is work on putting the phone down, even for your own sanity. What you might realize is number one, the people around you might be more impacted by it than you think they are. And
Yeah.
number two, you might notice that your own relationship with them changes when you start to put it down more, right? You might feel even closer and more connected to those people than you thought. You might
Yeah.
you might think that you're really connected, but what you might notice by putting the phone down is you weren't as connected as you thought you were. And that connection actually feels pretty damn good when you have it with a real human being, as opposed to a digital phone here.
Are you
Next
covering
one,
FaceTime?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Next one is ask if it's a good time. This is the one you brought up during our talk, and I agree. Is when you call somebody, once again, this has to do with being mindful of what they're doing. And that is, if you call somebody and it's going to be longer than like a 20 or 30-second just notification, ask them, hey, did I catch you at a good time? Right? I think the presumption is if you answered, it's a good time.
Right.
But they might be answering out of respect for who you are. Like, hey,
Right.
you're a level in my life where I'm going to answer when you call, and it's up to you to kind of be respectful of my time as well by saying, hey, it's not just a little 20 second. You got a minute. Can I ask you? I've done that with you before. Like, if I got an agenda, I'll call you and I'll just start running down the agenda. If I got something personal that I want to discuss, I'll say, hey, you got a minute? And you'll be, yeah. And then I'll do that. If you don't, I'll say, oh, well, I'll hit you up later. It's just being respectful of the other person's time. And you're noticing a trend here with all the things that we're talking about, and that is being mindful and respectful of the people that you're
Yeah.
interacting with.
Yeah.
Understanding that their viewpoint and perspective might differ from your own, and by not respecting that, it's going to create conflict potentially. I think that's what we're that's what we're getting at.
Yeah.
And Enrique just posted up. Let me put it up here. Enrique says, totally correct with the get off the phone. I do believe that it is a generational gap in the importance of in-person etiquette.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds very get off my lawn, but I kind of agree with that one. It does feel like a generational thing. It does feel like, as you get younger, the respect for in-person stuff is starting to dissipate.
I would say yes, but I think it's more. It's even starting to hit the older people because I'll
It
be
is.
there sometimes with my dad, and I'll look over to my dad, and my dad, was pushing what, almost pushing 90, man. He's up there. He's 80 something, right? And I'll see it. He's doing something on his phone. I'm like, what are you playing Sudoku? What are you on Facebook with? Dad, I'm right here. And so then my mom obviously would jump in and go, Jimmy, your son's in front of you. And he'd be like, what? Like it's like he clearly probably turned off his
Right on.
So I don't know, man.
Next one I have here, and we're going to probably roll through these pretty quickly. The next one I have here is texting versus calling. I got a good rule of thumb, man. Never call about something that could have been texted. Like this is my own
Like that.
personal thing.
I like.
Once again, not everybody feels the same way, and
Yeah.
that's why it's
Yeah.
important to understand who your audience is. But in my particular situation, don't call about something that could have been texted.
Yeah. You could text me.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Now, granted, if it's going to be like a huge back and forth, then call me. Right? Like I'm not sitting here trying to write a book to you all day long. I need 1 or 2 word answers, that kind of stuff. So if it's going to be a long-winded conversation, yeah, pick up the phone, call, let's knock it out. Because I can talk a hell of a lot faster than I can type.
All right. Unless I'm driving, I'm calling you back. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna text
but
you back.
if it's going to be a like, hey, do you need this, or do you like this, or hey, would you rather have this? Text me that. Like I
Yeah.
can answer that. I can continue on with my day with just a minute disruption and just text you back within seconds and move on.
Yep.
Calling me to ask me a simple question, I literally got to stop whatever it is that I'm doing and answer that. Yeah, like you take all my focus at that point. Um, so for me personally, I feel that way, and I think a lot of people do feel that way. But we have callers, right? Because I have people in my life that I'll text them and I'll immediately get a phone call, and it's
Yeah.
like, but I texted you. Had I been in a situation where I felt I was able to or I wanted to call, I would have called you. Like my phone works both ways. My phone calls and a text. So if I specifically texted you, that meant that I wasn't interested in having a phone call. And then you called me back. But I don't get mean or upset because, once again, I can't assume that they were in a position where they were able to text. They might have been driving or something like that.
Right.
So
Right.
that's why I answer it and I don't get upset about it. But it does cross my mind, like, why are you
Yeah.
calling me? I texted you. But yeah, once again, know your audience, right? The other words, I
Yeah.
guess what I'm getting at is don't assume what the other person is thinking or doing or how they feel
Mm.
about something. Have these conversations with people, right? Like if it's somebody that it's gonna be in your life. If it's a professional, whatever, that's one thing. If it's a one-time conversation, but if this is
Yeah.
somebody that you have a relationship with, be it a friend, a significant other, an ongoing working relationship or something, it's kind of
Right.
in your best interest to understand these little dynamics of them because what you might realize is number one, they're going to appreciate the fact that you took the time to ask these questions. They're going to feel like, man, this person really does care, and that can do nothing but help your relationship with that person. Number two,
Right.
you'll notice you have less disagreements. It's like when you actually take the time out to understand and appreciate where they're coming from, you fight so much less often. You have so many less drama moments where you say, what is this person thinking? Because you know what they were thinking. You've already talked about it and you're able to disengage, right? So that to me is the main crux of what we're getting at here. The next one I have here is one you just mentioned. We're running out of time, so we're just gonna blow through some of these.
All right. All right.
Next one is
Uh,
FaceTime versus call.
Yeah.
This one is a big one, especially with my kids, man. I don't mind it with my kids.
Yeah.
They're my little ones. They're 9 and 11. They love the FaceTime. They want that connectivity. I try to answer as often as I possibly can because I don't want them to ever feel like Daddy's not there for them.
Yeah.
But if you're not my 9 or my 11-year-old, don't FaceTime me without asking first. Just don't. Like, if I'm not out in the world in public, I don't want to be seen. I'm just that guy. I'm that dude. If I'm not like I'm a private person for the most part. Like if I'm not out in the world, I don't. I'm choosing not to be seen. Don't
Mm.
FaceTime me. Like that.
Yeah.
FaceTiming me without asking first is a very quick way to get yourself ignored. Because I will ignore it. I will not answer it. I just won't. The only people that I will answer a FaceTime from is my kids. That's it. Or my wife,
Yeah.
I guess, if I needed to.
Yeah.
But if you're not my wife or my kids, I most likely am going to ignore. And I won't text either to ask you. Nope, I'm just going to flat out ignore it. I'm going to pretend like that never happened. Only because man, you don't know what I'm doing. You don't know where I'm at. Like, no, dude. Like, what if I'm on the toilet and you just called me FaceTime? Like, who
Yeah.
knows, man? Like, just
Yeah.
that is something that I think that to me I think is a younger generation thing is they think they're so used to because I'll sit there and watch my daughter, my 16-year-old, be on FaceTime literally from the moment she wakes up to the moment she goes to bed.
Dude,
And it's
I hate that you come down and my hair's all crazy. I have no shirt on and everything. I come into her
yeah,
room to say something, and then so she knows right away to go. I'm on FaceTime. Say hi
yeah,
to blankety blank. I'm
yeah,
like, you
yeah,
go back
yeah.
out. And it's like what?
Yeah, well, because once again, it's being respectful of the other person. Like the other person might not, like we all have an image, we all have a certain expectation that we created for
No,
ourselves, and we also have our home life where we just don't want to be bothered with it. And so, like you might have clothes or certain outfits or whatever that you wear at the house that you don't like. I do. I have house clothes, man. I got clothes that I'll like lounge around in the house and I'll never leave the house in. It's just
yeah,
because I'm comfortable and I'm just chilling. I'm not trying to look any certain kind of way. So the last thing I want to do is be on FaceTime
right.
like, with some stranger who I don't know sitting there staring at me like in clothes that I would never leave the house in. It's like, dude, stop, man. Like the privacy, right? Like there is privacy.
Have you ever
Um,
walked into a room where FaceTime is on and the person that's on the phone is not there?
yeah,
So it's just a computer on.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I've seen
Yeah,
my
that's
kids do
weird.
that.
Yeah, that's weird too. You walk into a
Yeah,
computer and there's somebody sitting there. Hey, hi, Louis. Like, the
yeah,
hell?
yeah,
Like, Jesus, why aren't you on the phone? You know what I
yeah.
mean? So,
The last one I have here is, and we kind of already covered it. And that's just the mute button. Learning how to use mute, learning how to,
yeah.
use mute appropriately. If you're trying to say something, or as Enrique pointed out, if you're going to the bathroom or something like that, mute, man, mute.
It's an effective tool.
It is, it is,
Mute whatever you got to, man. Just mute, come back. Mute, come back.
pretty much.
Just don't mess up. Don't put her on. Don't think you muted it and go. It's just fucking Louis, man.
Yeah,
I heard you.
exactly. Um, all right, so I think that's my list, man. So you got any final words that you want to put out there
Yeah,
about
yeah,
communication and phones?
yeah. No instant message calls. I don't like
The
phone
who?
calls through instant messenger. Instant messenger calls. I don't get it.
Oh,
I
you
don't.
mean the Facebook thing, the Facebook Messenger calls?
Yeah, I have no idea. I
Yeah,
don't know
that's
where it's
weird.
coming from. It's just not coming through a normal route, and it's like, what is? I didn't.
Yeah,
That's
that's
just
weird.
weird to me. I don't understand it. And I have no real reason to not like it, other than it just looks weird to me. It's just, when it's coming in. Um,
Yeah,
the other thing is and this is like my final take on it. You don't have to isolate me. Just I'll say just like this. But your pet peeves are not my pet peeves.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So, and just like I know my pet peeves aren't your pet peeves, we all have different pet peeves, and just understand that. Just be mindful that everybody has their own little pet peeves, but that means that you just got to deal with yours. So, if I violated your pet peeve, just deal with it, man. I mean, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm not trying to, if we're communicating, we probably like each other. So I'm not trying to do something to hurt you or bother you or do something against etiquette that you have. Remember, I also have etiquette in my pet peeves. So we all have them, and that doesn't mean that they jive or are always in sync with another. That was my final words. We sat here and we said some things that bother us, but that doesn't mean that that's all of them, and that sure doesn't mean that I do all the perfect things, because I know I violate
yeah.
probably half the things that would bother a person. But these are just things.
Right on. Well, yeah, and then I'm gonna kind of echo a lot of that same thing, man. First and foremost, let me just now's the time of the show where I say, hey, thank you everybody for tuning in. By all means, if you got some value from this, make sure you share it with somebody or hit the like button, subscribe button. If you want to watch old videos, you can go to youtube.com/Dharma Time, or you can go to different podcasting platforms and listen to us if you so desire. We do appreciate it. So yeah, today, man, kind of the same thought process as we've had for the last couple of weeks as far as the tips are concerned. First and foremost, understand that while phones and technology might have progressed a lot, some of the expectations and as he pointed out, pet peeves have not. Some of them are still kind of there. Like I said earlier at the top of the show, the time frame of like 9 to 9, that kind of stuff. Even though the phone might have changed, there's still certain things about privacy, certain things about expectations and whatnot that might still be present, even though the phone is advanced. So just be aware of that. The second one is, realize and respect the fact that each individual, as he pointed out, has their own pet peeves, man. My pet peeves might not be yours. You might not be okay with calling it like 8 o'clock at night. I'm not offended by it. You call me at midnight and I don't know you, I might be offended by it, but the other person might not be. So just understand that each individual kind of has their own little set of expectations revolving around how the phone should or should not be used, and learn to be mindful and respect that about those. And if you overstep a boundary, instead of getting upset, kind of apologize and realize, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that, and move forward. And finally, the last one is what I just said, and that is respect everybody else's nuances. Respect the fact that that other person has every right to have certain pet peeves, has every right to look at the phone or communication in a certain kind of way that may or may not differ from your own. But at the end of the day, if we don't learn how to use these things in a skillful manner, we're going to continue to violate our own inner peace and other people's. And we're going to continue to have these unnecessary sources of conflict that continue to boil over in other areas of our life. And as I said, it's unnecessary. If we just learn how to use it skillfully, humble ourselves enough to realize that our perspective is not the only one in the world, and that other person's matters just as much as ours does, you might realize that you have a lot less conflict in your life. So I think that's all we got to today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and now that you know better, do better. Peace. Are you still here? What are you doing? I told you, go do better.